Have you ever had that feeling? You're working hard, you're doing everything right, but your money just doesn't seem to go as far as it used to. It's like your cash is a fresh leaf that's slowly wilting in your hand. Well, you are not imagining things. And in this explainer, we're going to get to the bottom of exactly why that's happening. So let's break this whole thing down with a super simple story. Picture this. In our little jungle world, leaves are your money, and bananas are, well, they're everything you want to buy. A little while ago, life was great. One leaf got you one banana. Easy peasy. But today, that same exact banana now costs you 2 leaves. So what gives? The banana isn't bigger, it's not any tastier. The thing that's changed is your leaves. They're losing their power. This whole problem actually has a name. In our jungle economy, we're calling it the wilted leaf crisis. But out here, in the real world, you know it as inflation. Yeah, it's that sinking feeling you get when it feels like your hard-earned savings are just turning into compost right in front of you. And this quote just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that confusion and, honestly, the frustration we all feel. Nothing about the thing you're buying has changed, but the price sure has. You're putting in the same amount of work, but you're getting fewer bananas for all that effort. It just feels wrong. And that's really the heart of this whole thing. Okay, so that leads us to the billion-dollar question. Or, I guess, the billion-leaf question. If the banana didn't change, something else must have. So let's grab a shovel, dig in, and get to the root of this problem to figure out why our leaves are losing all their crunch.
Right? If it's not the banana's fault, then where do we point the finger? What invisible force is out there making our hard-earned leaves weaker and weaker? Well, the answer lies in something called the money supply. Just think of it as the total number of leaves floating around the entire jungle. And here's the most important part. This supply isn't just random. Oh no, it is tightly controlled by a very powerful central authority. Let's call them the silverbacks at the monkey bank. So what did our friends at the monkey bank do? Well, they fired up the leaf printing presses and created, wait for it, 9 million new leaves. Just like that, out of thin air. Now, at first that sounds awesome, right? Hooray, more leaves for everybody. But there's a catch. And here it is. This is the crucial, critical piece of the puzzle. While the number of leaves in the jungle absolutely exploded, the number of bananas for sale stayed exactly the same. Now, the monkey selling bananas isn't dumb. When they see every single monkey running around with huge stacks of new leaves, they know their bananas are suddenly way more valuable in comparison. So what do? You guessed it, they jack up the price. This is precisely why inflation is so often called a hidden tax. See, the bank didn't come and physically take any leaves out of your pocket. No, they did something way sneakier. They just made the ones you already had worth less. Every single leaf you own is now a smaller slice of a much, much bigger pie. So it just buys you less stuff. Your wealth gets zapped without anyone ever touching it. Okay, but why would the silverbacks do this? Are they just evil? Not really. They actually have this incredibly powerful tool that they use to try and manage the entire jungle economy. We're going to call it the interest lever. So this lever, it controls interest rates. When the silverbacks want to get the economy humming, they pull that lever way down, making it super, super cheap to borrow leaves. And what happens? Well, monkeys get all excited. They take out loans to start new businesses, they spend more, and the jungle booms. But, and this is a big but, keeping that lever down for too long can be incredibly dangerous. We don't even have to imagine this. Let's just look at a real-world cautionary tale. Back in the roaring 20s, after a huge war, demand for everything just surged, so the central bank made it ridiculously cheap to borrow money, our leaves. And that fueled a massive, decade-long party. It created a huge financial bubble, but as you can see right here on the timeline, in October 1929, the party came to a sudden screeching halt, and that crash plunged the entire world into the Great Depression. And that really shows you the ultimate danger here. That bubble, which was blown up by all that easy money, it always, always pops. And when it does, the whole system can just collapse. The crisis of too many leaves chasing too few bananas can flip on a dime into a crisis where jobs vanish and suddenly nobody has any leaves at all. It is a very dangerous high-wire act. Now you have to understand, this wilted leaf crisis, it does not affect every monkey in the jungle the same way. Not at all. In fact, it's kind of like a bully. It tends to pick on the most vulnerable folks, and sometimes it even helps out the rich and powerful. So let's break down who actually wins and who loses here. So who gets hammered? Well, first you've got the saver monkey. You know, the responsible one who buried a stash of leaves for a rainy day. Every day they wake up, that stash buys a little bit less. Then there's the employee monkey. They might get a small raise, but they quickly realize it's not nearly enough to keep up with the soaring price of bananas. But get this, some monkeys actually benefit. The debtor monkey, who borrowed a bunch of valuable crunchy leaves years ago, now gets to pay that loan back with cheap wilted leaves. Their debt literally gets easier to pay off. And the same goes for huge corporations with massive loans.
So, if we know that just saving your leaves in a shoebox is a guaranteed losing game, what is a smart monkey supposed to do? You can't just sit there and watch your life savings, your banana pile, turn to dust. The key is you've got to change the game you're playing. And here it is. This is the fundamental secret. You have to move your wealth out of a form that is designed to wilt, and that's what cash is, and into things that have the potential to grow, or at the very least, hold their value over time. These things are called assets. Let's run through a few of the big ones. First, you could buy a treehouse, real estate. They aren't making any more land, so its value tends to go up with inflation. Or you could own a piece of the banana selling business itself through stocks. If they raise their prices and make more leaves, well, so do you as an owner. You could also hold something that's just plain rare, like gold. The monkey bank can't just print more gold out of thin air. Or, hey, if you don't want to bet on just one tree, you can buy the whole forest with something called an index fund, and that spreads your risk all over the place.
Okay, wow. We have covered a ton of ground, from wilting leaves and money printing all the way to financial bubbles and how to protect yourself. So let's bring it all home and make sure we have a clear, simple plan for the jungle ahead.
So what are the absolute key takeaways here? Number one, the wilt isn't a glitch. It's a feature of the system. Your leaves are probably going to keep wilting. Number two, just holding onto leaves, just holding cash, is like deciding to stand perfectly still on a slowly sinking branch. It's a guaranteed way to go down. Number three, you have to put your leaves to work in what you could call a magic grove of assets so they have a chance to grow. And finally, and this is the most important one, just understanding how this game is played is the absolute first step to not losing it. So I'm going to leave you with this question. Look, knowledge is power, for sure, but it's action that actually changes your life. So now that you understand the rules of the game, what's the very first move you're going to make to secure your future and protect your own banana pile? Thanks so much for tuning in. I know this economic jungle can be a wild and confusing place, but by sharing this knowledge, we all get smarter and stronger. Stay smart, do what you can to keep your leaves crunchy, and always remember, apes together, strong.